Welcome,
Mm.
Gentry Pack, aka G.Pack, right?
Yes, sir.
Artist extraordinaire. All right. I wanted to start, right? So you graduated from the University of Maryland, right?
Right.
You could have pursued any corporate occupation you wanted, but you decided to go with art.
Right.
How did you keep the inner and outer voices of doubt from deterring you from pursuing what was on your heart?
Oof. I honestly did not want to pursue art. That was like the last career choice I wanted to take because I wanted something that was stable. Like you said, my plan was to do architecture, and it came to a point where I had to apply for this seat in architecture. Not everybody can get in, right? You have to draw your way into it. I get in there, somehow my grades are shot, but I still get approved because I can draw that well, right? And the dean calls me and he's like, do you even really want to do this? And I'm like, I said yes, but I had to confirm it via email and I forgot. So clearly, like, I didn't want to actually do it. From there, it was kind of like do or die, bruh. Like, honestly, like, this is what I love to do. I had to be real with myself. I was like, this is all I care about. Anything else is going to be a waste of time. So I feel like just taking that hunger and that necessity to just actually make it work. You don't have a choice, you know?
And the drawing thing started early. I don't know if I heard you speak about it already. You were saying that your cousins were from Philly.
For sure.
And they were drawing.
Yeah.
And you were on a comic book vibe for a little bit.
Exactly.
So please tell us about that.
Yeah. I loved anime, loved comics, and I used to start making my own little books. Just get some printer paper, fold it in half, staple it, and I would just illustrate my own little books. That was kind of my way of really making little worlds for myself that I kind of still like function in. So, yeah.
All right. In a previous interview, I heard you say, in the beginning, painting was a catalyst for making me feel powerful again after a painful experience. What was that painful experience?
So many. I think the first moment of vulnerability in my life was when I lost my mother. I was 16, she had breast cancer, and it was a very slow and uncomfortable experience to witness, you know what I'm saying? And I think during the last few moments, those were the hardest, because that's when she was the weakest, you know what I mean? And my mom was always like hella strong, hella sassy, hella confident. So to see her in that moment, I think that kind of started a little bit of like a pessimistic maybe outlook on life for me. So like from that, situations that maybe weren't that big of a deal, like all different types of forms of rejection, not getting a job or relationships not working out or just feeling less than, you know what I'm saying? I think I would kind of amplify that sometimes.
Because of that experience?
Potentially, I wouldn't blame it on that. I just think that's kind of like my brain turned on and I started like remembering pain, if you will, So I think art was kind of like the way to flip that, you know what I'm saying? Like I could take something that hurt and blast it and be like, nigga, I'm him, you know what I mean? Like, we're all him, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, that was my way to just really flip situations for sure.
So your mother dying, right? At a young age, that's very traumatic.
Right.
At what time of your life, obviously you never stop dealing with stuff, right?
For sure.
But at what time in your life were you able to start processing it?
I didn't even really acknowledge it for the first like 2 years. I basically like ignored like it didn't happen, Then I lost my grandmother, so it was like a compound the year after, you know what I'm saying? So like
you used to chill at your grandmother's house, right?
You said what?
That's where you used to hang out at your grandmother's house?
Yep, yeah. Same grandmother, yep. And she was the matriarch for sure. And I remember at her funeral, that's when I actually was able to grieve for both of them at the same time, for the first time ever. But yeah, I think it was just, as painful as that moment was, I feel like it just made me more like conscious, if you will. I think before that time, life wasn't really a real thing to me. It was just like, we're just la-di-da, I'm him, you're her, color, go to work, that's it. And I was like, oh no, like this is for real. Everything counts. And I think that's when I just started like really receiving the world more like intensely,
More acceptance of the reality of the world in which we live and the reality of life.
100%.
Do you ever find yourself, how would I say this? With the death thing, right? Sometimes people go through a time where they really cherish life. Have you ever experienced you cherishing life declining, and you have to remind yourself of that experience to kind of embrace life again?
I think that's basically where I'm at right now. For some reason, death feels very, very like tangible to me. You know what I'm saying? Maybe because what we're seeing all over the news, maybe because of what we're seeing in real life. And yeah, in those moments, I do have to remind myself, like, I think even though we're all, destined to reach that point, there is so much unexplainable beauty, like, everywhere, at every second of every day. It's just as much positive as it is negative, I think I try to just stay a little balanced with both,
I know I see beauty in certain things. What are the things you see beauty in?
I mean, the easiest one is nature. Watching plants grow is like watching like an alien come out of the earth, like the most abstract science fiction novel. That's how I really look at it. Or on the way over here, I was thinking about octopi. It's my most feared thought. Even just seeing one right now, I would squirm, And literally while I was driving to this interview, I was just thinking, like, I bet it's beautiful, like, when they're in their habitat and the sun's shining through and they're, purple and green and turquoise and doing all this camouflage stuff. And I don't know, they catch a shrimp or something. Like, watching that, like, ballet is probably, like, how do you even come up with it, So I think this blue rug is looking beautiful right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's beauty everywhere, to be honest.
All right, so you work a 9 to 5, right?
I do.
And you still do your own paintings and work on your clothing brand.
For sure.
How has growing up with military parents influenced the discipline, consistency, and resilience you have demonstrated to become a internationally known artist?
That sounds good. Honestly, I think, even though I lost my mother, my father and I are super close. And, like, he kind of just instilled, like, no matter what, like, you got to make sure certain stuff is taken care of. You know what I mean? His line was like, we don't roll like that. You know what I mean? Like, our stuff is never, like, janky, late, not paid for. Like, everything got to be right first and foremost before all the flashy, extra, stupid stuff. So I think just rolling with him and, like, naturally becoming, like, almost like a clone of who he is because we spent so much time, like, certain things have to be in order. Hence, like, why I still rock the 9 to 5 just to, like, not have to sell paintings for money if I don't want to.
And I wanted to say I was very impressed when I found out you did have a 9 to 5. Reason being, I have a lot of experience with artists, and there's a lot of delusion and pride that comes in that artist realm, right?
Right.
And I think they put themselves in a tougher bind when they don't have a consistent form of income. And I think in these modern times, music artists, painter, you probably need a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Nothing's wrong with that.
Yeah. I'll be honest, like, it is hard because even though it only takes a fraction of my time, as a creator, sometimes I don't want to give that up. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to have to check these 7 emails before I get back to this canvas. Like, I'm trying to go. I seen it. I feel it. I just want to pick up where I left off from last night. But balance.
Where did you get that realistic approach to what you're doing? Like, was it an elder talking to you, or did you just realize, say, yo, the reality is, bro, I need something else to support what I'm trying to do?
I think it was, my parents definitely, they were on me when I was younger. They would always be like, yo, you got to get your stuff together. Because I was creative. I wanted to explore. I wanted to go out. I wanted to do all kind of extra stuff. But I think, like, I was used to hearing them say, like, get your stuff together. But, like, once I got to a certain age, maybe, like, in college, because that's really when I started painting heavy, and I started peeping how expensive everything was and how much it really cost to, like, even survive in America, Like, after one or two mistakes, you're like, okay, like I learned my lesson. Like I need to get my stuff proper. You know what I mean? Like you only bump your head once to know not to do it again. You know? So yeah.
How is it at College Park as a creative? Because Maryland has the schools I've been exposed to, right?
Right.
They have a certain demographic, but it's not
sure.
really conducive for creatives. It seems like a funnel. Correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like a funnel for corporate America. So I didn't really see too many. I went to Loyola, and in retrospect, I didn't really see too many creative people like that. It was kind of like a copy and paste culture.
I would agree. That's honestly a really eloquent way to say it. It's a great funnel for corporate America, black, white, any ethnicity. If you go to Maryland and you're trying to be corporate, you have a good shot. Creatively, I think it was tough for me because I would have a couple moments where I would look around in the classes I'm in. For example, if I'm in painting 4, I'm looking around, I'm like, none of these people actually are going to be painters. Like they don't want to be they're art majors, they like it, they can paint a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. Turn up. But, there's a certain, like if you play basketball and you in the league, you could tell like, oh, like he played professional. Like just when he walked on the court, like, you know what I mean? So like being in those classes, I was like, okay, I'm definitely by myself, but I think I turned that to an advantage because I was like, it's just me out here. Like, I'm gonna just do what I gotta do. So I wasn't even really at Maryland that much. I was going back to Baltimore painting in like rap studios and stuff. Like, I was just trying to get it. So
Did you have any good instructors when you were at College Park?
for sure. Honestly, they were all good. They were all really good people, really good instructors. They just knew the circumstances. And every now and then they'd be like, okay, like Gentry, like you're gonna be straight. You can do what you wanna do. You know what I mean? And they would give you that, constructive help. But for the most part, they were just regular people, like anybody else. So
how has living in Baltimore impacted your approach to art? And the reason I ask that is that I know Baltimore, is known for negative things, right? But Baltimore really has an energy down there, and they have a rich artistic culture down there, rich art culture down there.
Absolutely.
So how has that influenced your style of art?
Right. I think both of the things you mentioned are what influenced it the most, right? Just to get the negative out the way, there's a lot of people who are struggling in Baltimore, and you'll see it up close,
Up close.
Up close, you know what I mean? And as an empathetic, creative thinking person, I can't help but think like, how did you get here? I just put myself like in their body almost. And that affects you when you're doing that all the time. You know what I mean? It makes you see life differently. And then you go somewhere like, I don't know, Dubai or something, and everybody's flexing, acting totally different. It's like, man, I know both of these places exist. Like, it's a mind twist, But on the other hand, community-wise, I've never seen an art community like Baltimore. It's like, it doesn't matter what you do, how long you've been doing it. If you like to do something and you have good vibes, like you are welcome in almost any and every space. You're encouraged almost. Like, come up, hop on the mic, do something. Like, who knows? We all have so much talent. So I've never ever seen that anywhere else. It's no ego. It's no like sizing you up. I had to chill out, honestly, because I'm used to walking in there like, what we doing? Who's painting? Like, what's up? You know what I mean? Not better than me. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's a really, really sweet and loving place, honestly.
And I want to go back to what I asked you earlier now. So that aspect, the cultural aspect and embracement in regards to community, but Baltimore itself, how has being in Baltimore influenced the topics you focus on for your paintings?
For sure. I think Baltimore showed me so many different perspectives of what it's like living as a Black person in America, right? Because I grew up in Howard County, right? So I seen the biggest mansions, that some people have ever seen.
Yeah, it's like upper class vibe.
100%. And then we come down to Baltimore, and this is really home. It just makes you realize what people are going through.
Did you so you've been on both sides of the fences, right?
100%.
Do you have a better understanding? Because I notice sometimes when you grow up, you're in a bubble and everyone's in a bubble. So you could be in a bubble in the hood or you
Right.
could be in a bubble somewhere else.
For
But
sure.
do you have a better understanding now of the struggles of Black people being in that environment? Because sometimes they have this vibe because you're doing good, you feel everybody else should be doing good, but you don't understand what goes into their situation.
I think after living in both places, I have a better understanding of the systems that are in place. The people in the suburbs and the people in the hood, they're very similar people. You know, they just got dealt different cards in different locations. And it's pretty bizarre how meticulous it can be just to make one area nicer than the other. So that's kind of strange.
Many of your pieces are your interpretation of urban pop culture. Artists are blessed with the gift of observation, right? What have you observed is the reason for the absence of inner peace for your generation?
What have I observed as the reason for the absence of inner peace in my generation? I would say comparison. And I would also say brainwashing.
Break down the comparison first before we get on the brainwashing.
For sure.
What else you have to say about this?
Comparison is like, we grew up in a time, and I caught the tail end of it, but current, young people grew up in a time where you could know everything about everyone instantly, right? You could know what she looks like, where he lives, who they hang out with, their birthday, what kind of clothes they have, what kind of car, job, all this stuff. If you're not doing half or even a fraction of so-and-so's highlight reel, now you start to diminish your self-worth and you dig inward and inward and inward and inward, and you basically cave in on yourself if you're not careful. And once you cave in, you're kind of just sitting there like a little dent in the ground, and people just walk around you or walk over you, and that's that, So we shouldn't know like all the things we know, and it's only going to get like, things are in motion to where we'll all just know everything, and I don't think that would be great.
But the question I have is that even though there's shortcomings in certain areas, there is a brilliance in this generation that wasn't in the previous generation. So you just said yourself, you mentioned the word highlight reel. Mm-hmm. Do people not understand this is a highlight reel, or are they internalizing what they're seeing as if it's real?
I think it's both, for sure. Because like, even when I say highlight reel, I don't really have that in mind. When I'm like, damn, that's harder than mine. I'm not thinking that, like, I'm just not thinking that, because I think it's presented so flawlessly and so perfectly. You're just almost like immersed in this illusion. You know what I mean? And it's in the palm of your hand.
And you mentioned brainwashing earlier.
For sure.
Can you elaborate on that, please?
For sure. I think it has a lot to do with the highlight reel, but I think now more than ever, honest opinions are definitely discouraged, positive or negative. And I think because of that, sometimes people just get caught up in whatever the group is saying.
All right. Why do you say honest opinions are discouraged?
Cancel culture, I don't say anything on social media, I don't say anything. Because it's like, we could be having a conversation about whatever we're talking about. And in our world, it makes sense and it's fun and it's peaceful and it's love. But depending on how you might hear it, someone really, really, really might be hurt by that. And I wouldn't even want to hurt anybody's feelings. So like, that's why I don't say anything. But the internet is it's a living thing. So I think that's what it comes down to. The internet is on this generation.
All right. So I'm glad you're here, right? And you're talking on behalf of your generation. How does that make you feel when you're constantly not being true to yourself? because you said you don't want to make a negative or a positive comment, but you have all these things inside.
Right.
And I take it when you do interact, it's not your true self because you don't want to offend anyone.
Right.
So what does that do internally, or has anyone in you have you and your peers spoken about what that does internally, or have you reflected on what that does to you internally when you're not being your true self?
For sure. Now, I spoke about it with a couple, I would just say creators. And the only way I can do it is if I disassociate, like, this is a tool. This is an app on my phone. I do something with my thumbs, and then I go do what I actually do in real life, which is make art and show love. You know what I mean? Keeping that separate for me keeps me where I need to be at. Now, some people understand that with it being a tool, if you sprinkle a little bit more of this, the tool might give you more reward. And then I started to realize, like, what does that actually mean, right? If you have 100,000 followers, what does this actually mean in your life?
Yeah, so I'm glad you spoke on that. I think there's a misunderstanding between, especially for a creative person or a business person, followers and transactions, followers and sales. There's no connection at all. And you can be doing very well with 2 followers, and you just have a good clientele of what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Please speak on that, because I know you experienced that, bro.
100%. I mean, it's a little different for me because as a painter, I would say a fine arts painter, I have roughly 10K followers, right? Out of those 10K, how many of them do you think can afford one of my paintings, right? And on top of that is looking to buy while I have it. You're looking at maybe like 10 to 15 people. You know what I mean? So it's like at that point, this is just a machine that'll hopefully bring something else, and something like this. You know what I mean? Like, it's a tool to like connect, but outside of that, it has nothing to do, especially with the money I'm getting. So that's the last thing it has to do with. So
that's the deception everybody's kind of running with, you know?
And I get it, because I feel like if you don't have it, you're looking at it like it's some big thing because you don't have it. And then once you get it, you're like, oh, this doesn't mean anything. I don't feel any different. This is nothing. These people might not even be real or looking at me, you know? So yeah.
There's a part 2 to that question too, right?
Okay.
We spoke about observation, spirituality, right?
For sure.
This is just my observation. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but I kind of get a spiritual aspect emanating from your art, right? And I know you're a man that don't talk that much. So are you trying to give messages of spirituality in your art?
I'm like screaming at the top of my lungs. Like,
please explain.
I was raised super religious. So I think that was almost kind of like, in a sense.
Which denomination?
Baptist.
Baptist?
Yes, sir. Yeah. I was baptized when I was 13. My mother was a minister.
Your mother was a minister?
Yeah.
Why you had a lot going on in the house, yo? Your parents were military and she was a minister?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And my father was a deacon. And then, you know, whole family, just preachers. It was deep, super deep, which I'm thankful for. It was fun. But again, because of that, like, it was almost like a spirit that was like solidified, like, in me. You know what I'm saying? So even if I wanted to run away from it, I would still feel like I had just spiritual awareness, you know? So with that, now as I'm growing and aging and just seeing life for what it is, sometimes I just need to speak about that. And I think with spirituality, it's such a personal topic that some people don't want to hear even words regarding it. They're like, yo, this is too much, you know? Whereas I'm like, okay, y'all gonna listen to me if I paint. Let me tell you how I feel. That's it.
Could you speak, or could you delve deeper in regards to the message of spirituality you give through the painting?
I think a lot of times it has to do with what I believe the path to the afterlife will feel like. I don't know what the afterlife is, but I do feel like Anytime you see a movie or something and somebody dies or, gets their head cut off or something, their life flashes before their eyes. I think that is the path all of us will take no matter what. We're going to see things. And I guess I'm just trying to, you kind of know what you're going to see because it's your life. So I'm basically trying to show you my life flashing before my eyes as I transcend into this spiritual place. And this is what I'm seeing. This is what I feel. I'm scared about this. I'm excited about this. This brings me joy. This petrifies me. At least in that way, like, it's not just a fleeting moment. Like, at least maybe somebody else can relate or even learn from it, because some of that stuff is scary.
Do you still go to church?
I don't.
You don't go to church anymore?
I need to, but I'm like, I got to figure it out.
Are you still a believer in Christ?
For sure.
All right, you just don't go to church.
I do not go to church. I need to figure it out, though, because I don't like church. I don't know. Like, I need to figure out somehow I can, like, get in there and not hate it. You know what I'm saying? But, yeah, we working on it.
What's the disdain for church?
It's funny. It's like, it's almost like conveniently like everything I dislike, because, God is funny like that. It's like the whole community aspect. I'm very, like, show up, sit in the back. I'm listening, locked in. I'm going to drop my piece in, and I'm going to leave. Like, that's how I want it to be. But as like a young person and a black person and a talented artist, whatever, they try to pull you, like, come be on the praise team. And I'm like, I just want to come and just like.
It's all the extra stuff.
It's a lot of extra with it, waking up in the morning. Man, I might be up till the morning. You know what I mean? So it's like, I need to figure out a way to fit it into my life. You know what I mean? Or alter my life so that way it fits naturally.
What's up with the dogs?
The dogs.
The dogs. I see a lot of paintings about dogs. What's going on there?
For sure. It started out with the Doberman. The Doberman inspired me really because I liked its demeanor. It looked very serious, looked very intelligent, but at the same time, you don't want to mess with it, On top of that, I really like how their ears perked up. But then I came to learn that that's not natural, you know what I mean? They crop the ears. It's like basically breaking them so they grow upwards, right? On top of that, their tails. They're cropped as well. So I'm like, man, this beautiful dog that I'm so inspired by.
Manufactured.
It's manufactured. All the things I love about it are not natural. So that in itself, that was the first link, you know what I mean? From there, whenever I would paint it, I guess with my style, maybe the strokes, whatever, it's somehow, for me, still radiated blackness, you know what I mean? African-American swag, if you will. Especially with the Cuban links. A lot of times we're wearing the same one. Maybe that's why it makes sense. But I felt like I could express so much about African-American history, the emotions I face as a black man, all these, heavier topics through the use of this subject. And we ended up doing a mural in DC of a really big one. We had to fight to get on the wall too, because they were like, can't put this big dog, scare the kids. I'm like, trust. And it's like, as soon as it was up there, like, at least every black person was like, I feel it. I feel you, bro. And I was like, okay, at least we're speaking the same language. So I just been running with it ever since.
Can you explain what you meant when you said in regards to the dogs representing the struggle of black people in this country?
I mean, I think off rip, anytime you see an animal chained up, I think of slavery, right? Chains, masters, breaking out of the chains, freeing yourself, looking good while doing it, confident, bold. All of these aspects, I think, just pour into how so many black people see themselves. I think.
When I was looking at, I don't know if it was the single one or one with three I saw online. I was just thinking about domestication and how people are comfortable with you when you're domesticated. This is my interpretation of what I saw, right?
Go crazy.
How people are comfortable with you when you're domesticated, but they don't like you in your true nature. And that's what really captured me in it. I don't know if you ever, but that's how I kind of viewed it in a sense, because as a black man, people don't like me in my true nature. I have to be domesticated to a certain extent to be acceptable, even intellectually. If I express my true nature intellectually, they get discouraged and don't want that, so that's what I saw from the picture.
That's real. That's honestly beautiful. I'm so glad that's what you picked up, because I fully agree, honestly. I think in general, if everybody on earth was completely honest all the time, it wouldn't work. you know? So I feel you. I feel you.
All right. I want to talk about the responsibility of artists defining success for themselves, right?
Mm.
I witnessed too many times where artists experience inner turmoil because they live their lives guided by non-creative people's, if that's even a word, standard of success. Have you experienced any frustrations with the idea of success?
100%. I think the motto I try to live by, if you're still making art, you are a successful artist because you didn't quit. You're still going, you're expressing yourself. However, I do feel like I personally struggle to acknowledge my accomplishments, like whatsoever. Even like being invited to this platform, I was like, why do you want to even talk to me? You know what I mean? I know I've done a lot. I know I've done so much, but I'm also like, it's not really in my ears, you know? It's just kind of like it's in the past. So I guess every day is kind of like an opportunity, if you will, but unless I'm in that moment, and even still, sometimes I'm thinking about the next thing. So I don't know if it's programming or what, but it's hard. It's very difficult.
In regards to success, right?
Mm,
Um, I'm not sure if you went. I'm just telling you based on what I experienced.
for sure.
Were you with the struggle? Were you trying to equate success to sales? Were you trying to equate success to completions? Were you trying to equate success in regards to artistry and development of your craft?
I was trying to equate success to social media, bro. That's what it was. Like, all that other stuff is cool for sure. Love it. But at the end of the day, like, because you got to think, I started painting when I was like 18 going hard. So, like, all I'm doing, I'm on social media. Like, I want to be like X, Y, and Z. So, like, until I'm X, Y, and Z, I'm not successful. Like, that is the goal. That's the requirement. So, I think that has a lot to do with it because we're looking at some stuff that's not even real, trying to make it reality.
When are you still working on it, or you were able to come to terms with that?
Nah, for sure. I think I'm definitely straight. I like, I love to get creative and like do creative flexes on the internet, like just to be like, okay, we could do that. That was fun. But I'm way, way, way more planted in reality, whatever that means. So, yeah.
What role does timing and patience play when you're creating a piece?
Everything. Everything is timing. Everything is patience. Whenever I'm painting, I try to have like a samurai-like patience. You know what I mean? Like waiting until the perfect rendering of this fingernail before moving to the next one. Like waiting, however long it takes. And then the timing-wise is figuring out when to execute a move. You know what I mean? Like, do I need to have this show in DC? Or is it time to do it in New Jersey? Or is New York too ambitious? Am I just doing that for social media? So like really feeling that flow of life, I'm a believer of the alchemist, I feel like the universe be kind of guiding you. So when it feels right, lean into it. When it feels wrong, do not force it.
I want to ask you this, right? I've interviewed a lot of great musical artists, and the ones who are truthful, it seems like songs are given to you in a sense. It's like you can't really write a song, right? So are paintings given to you, or are you actually, when I say, I'm not saying something's working through you to paint, I'm just saying in regards to like that inspiration, like is it a mental thing or is it a spiritual thing when you're painting?
I try to not make it a mental thing because then I'll be too literal. When it's spiritual, sometimes the painting will just emulate the feeling that I had from the vision. It's almost like it was like copied and pasted into there, So I definitely say it's more spiritual than anything. But normally it starts as like a glimpse, like I see it. I'll see and then from there I have to go find out how to create it. You know what I mean? Hunt for references, hunt for, the perfect subject, muse, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I see the whole thing and then I got to put it back together.
How many times when painting you run into a jam where you have to learn a new technique to kind of make this thing manifest the way it is in your vision?
I would say every time you should be doing it. Like you should, like if you're not doing something new, you basically just either needed some bread or you just wasted your time, you know? So yeah, every time I get back to it, I try to do something new. And I definitely like switch it up. Like I might do painting and then do something new with clothes and then do something new with murals and do something new with, so it's not like too mundane, but yeah, every time I come back, I want to do something new.
The connection between musical artists, artists, and chefs.
What do I think it is? I think it's the ability to be fully present in a moment and channel your thoughts and feelings through a physical product, you know? Like anytime I'm in the kitchen and I'm cooking, I'm like feeling every slice of the tomato, you know what I mean? Like I'm feeling it. And when it feels good, it just comes out so much better.
All right, I heard you once say in a previous interview, quarantine was the best thing that ever happened to you, right? Please explain why you said this.
Quarantine, and you know, prayers, acknowledgement to all the people we lost in quarantine. That's not like funny business. For me, quarantine, I was working at this alcohol distillery, and I was their graphic designer. So, you know, I'm making all these labels and stuff, a lot of busy printing work. When quarantine happened, I got furloughed. So I'm at the crib. I'm getting paid once a week from the government. One of those checks was more than what I was getting every 2 weeks at the real job. No one's around. I live alone. I wake up in the morning, I start painting, take a nap, keep painting, go to the skate park, see my friends, come back, keep painting. I was averaging like 2 paintings a week. Normally 1 painting takes me about a month. I was cooking, I was happy. It honestly it gave me a glimpse of what I always dreamt life to be like. I was getting paid, I was happy, everything was blessed, and I was creating like crazy.
Your clientele, I'm pretty sure a lot of orders are online, so I'm not sure if you're aware of the demographic. But what's your clientele? Who's purchasing your paintings?
Who's purchasing originals? I probably know you. Because it's like, painting is very intimate for me. And I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to make art that I'm not proud of. So chances are we have some type of relationship. From there, it could literally be anybody. We could meet in the elevator. And if you have good energy, like you could end up with a G.Pack painting, you know? As far as clothing and merch and things like that, that's really just like the day one people I don't really see anymore, but still just want to be connected. So that's really beautiful. But yeah, it could be honestly anyone. It's all over the board. Old people, young people, men, women, children.
And how is the painting hustling work now? Because I know you do original, but how many prints do you do of original?
So I normally do 30 runs of 1 painting. Once it's out, it's out. Because I want people's work to appreciate as my work appreciates, you know what I mean? But from there, it's kind of like a case-by-case basis. So if it makes sense for me to stop what I'm doing and put a month into, you know, this business or this person's brand, it could definitely happen.
Have other companies reached out for your artistic expertise?
For sure.
Yeah.
I think the most recent one, again, how I got here, PBC IP in New Jersey. They saw my work, hired me to come down and do like a 45-foot mural. We did that in like 10 days solo. So, you know, being able to get fast like that, I can just take care of myself for longer.
How are the murals? That seems like a tedious job.
It's easier.
Yeah, it's easier?
It's easier than the actual canvas just because it's so big. In order to even view it, you have to stand 40, 50 feet away. Yeah. So because of that, the wall's super forgiving. Whereas if I paint, you know, somebody like this, you're looking at the strokes. Like, oh, nah, he messed up here. What is this? He smudged. This is a finger mark.
So hold on, the mural, there's no spray paint. You painted it?
So I sketch in a spray paint, but I paint the whole thing though. It's 99% paint, yeah, with a brush.
Where did you learn to spray paint?
I didn't.
Yeah,
I didn't. That's why I don't. You know what I mean? This is only my second large scale one. I did the first one like a week before. So it's like even just getting up there was like, okay, bet, like new career unlocked. You know what I mean? So it's very new, but it's fun.
That's a vibe then. All right, man.
For sure.
Well, thank you so much for coming up here. All right.
Thank you for having me, man.
Cool.